The word charm can be a bit overused, yet it's the perfect word to use when describing Puppeteer, a PS3 exclusive platformer from Studio Japan. Sure, Puppeteer is fun to play, it totes mostly solid mechanics and is both accessible and deep, but it's the way the game looks and sounds that really drew me in. In that regard, there's nothing quite like Puppeteer, and when combining that fact with how enjoyable it is to play, it's virtually impossible not to recommend it.
Why don't you let Granny hold onto those for you?
Right now, you wooden dolt! What was that for? Don't you tell me I'm not your type! Gotcha!
With Puppeteer, Studio Japan proves that untold amounts of whimsy can come from a Sony dev that's not named Media Molecule. With unique, gorgeous graphics, fluid animation, a great soundtrack, and well-delivered voice acting,
I've prepared a very special room for you.
This game doesn't take itself seriously ever, and that's why it's so endearing. Main character Kudero is a wooden doll that has quite literally lost his head. To keep on keeping on, he finds other heads that give him special powers. Engaged in heated battle with a furry foe known as the Moon Bear King, Kudero is charged with saving the innocent souls of captured children that the Moon Bear King feasts on. The entire idea of Puppeteer is to make you feel like you're on stage, delivering a show to an unseen audience with a never-ending array of set changes going on around you. As such, when you die, you might hear gasps and cries from the audience. But deliver a solid blow to a baddie and they'll applaud and cheer.
After him, Kataro!
Puppeteer's pseudo-stagecraft gives the game a feeling of rapidity, as swapping sets, fast-moving enemies, and never-ending narration constantly drive the game forward. Unfortunately, this emphasis on presentation sometimes gets in the way of actual gameplay. Some of these cutscenes can literally take 5 minutes and they happen constantly, but you can skip them if you must. And after a while, you probably will.
I'll take care of it. Would you like a back rub? Now, bamboos generally tend to be upright citizens, but these stalks have grown fans and wanted to chow down on Kudero.
Puppeteer may resemble Little Big Planet, but it doesn't quite feel like LBP when you play it. There's no depth of field, which makes platforming and navigation a bit more straightforward, and Kudero isn't as floaty as Sackboy either. Like LBP, Puppeteer relies more on platforming and puzzle solving than combat, and the former is more fun than the latter, except when it comes to those unique boss fights. Still, there's an unfortunate lack of enemy diversity outside of that group of bosses. Early on, Kudero stumbles across a pair of magical scissors known as Calibris. These scissors give Puppeteer a totally unique gameplay mechanic: cutting. It's how you'll attack enemies and it's how you'll get around more often than not. While Puppeteer's base platforming mechanic suffers from occasionally inconsistent controls, those weaknesses are overshadowed by using Calibris to cut through paper, cloth, smoke, water, and just about everything else to get around. This cutting mechanic is at the core of Puppeteer, and it's not only novel, it's fun. Boss fights are events in and of themselves, and while most of them have an annoying pattern of capping off with quick-time events as opposed to actual gameplay, they are diverse and rarely frustrating. Indeed, Puppeteer itself is a fair game. Cheap deaths are encountered once in a while. I especially found some of the on-rail sections occasionally obnoxious. But then again, Puppeteer doesn't have a staggering level of difficulty. It's a game made for all ages, and it shines through not only in its presentation, but in its gameplay. It's forgiving, perhaps too much so sometimes. If you choose to jump further into Puppeteer, you can. There are scores of unique heads to find, and you won't find most of them unless you really look for them. Each 3-stage world has a trio of bonus stages to uncover, which can extend the gameplay far beyond the 10 hours it takes to play through. In fact, Puppeteer's trophy list has a mind-boggling 58 bronze trophies. So if you want to get the platinum, Puppeteer will necessitate a deep dive.
The wheel stretched to preposterous proportions. Kudero knew he had to swallow his fear, step forward, and keep his head.
Here's the thing about Puppeteer. It's too friggin' cute. Kids and parents alike will like it. It's like a good old-school Disney movie. Sure, it's made for the children, but it's kind of directed at those kids' parents, too. And while it's a retail release, it's only $40, so the price is right. For more on Puppeteer, keep it tuned to IGN.
Do you think someone else is pulling the strings?